Well, there's good news. I found out there's an H&H Bagels on Sunset Boulevard near Dodger Stadium, but they don't deliver, so I have to go to Elysian Park to get my bagels, which is better than going to Santa Monica, having them shipped from New York, which I did last week. But we're in baseball season. This is the middle of the World Series. I do want to do a little bit on some TV, some movies that reflect baseball, my top five baseball movies, which we'll get to because of the World Series, obviously. There's a whole genre of baseball movies, and people forget that, and they never play internationally, which is part of the problem of baseball pictures when you're trying to make one, like I was. There's no foreign market for baseball in the movie monetary market because a lot of the countries don't know how the game is played or anything about it. So that negates the foreign market. And everything you hear from executives reminds you of that. Unless you come up with some other crazy idea that is somehow international, they really don't like to make baseball movies. Okay, so we're back where this is this week in showbiz history as opposed to this week in showbiz. We're going to do a little bit of this week in showbiz where I'll give you these stories that I've picked for this week of things that are happening currently. Then we'll get into a little bit about these my top five baseball movies of all time. And then we can get into some birthdays, events, and deaths for this week in showbiz history, as opposed to this week in showbiz, which would be a rather short show. That being said, I just want to urge you all, if you can, to subscribe to the channel because of reasons that I can't talk about, but it really helps the algorithm if you subscribe to the channel. And you could do that about now, or you could do it in your own private time. But subscribing and liking and hitting the notifications bell, as indicated there's an image of the bell, a like word and a subscribe word, which are the three things apparently that you need to survive on YouTube for this algorithm. The situation is that YouTube likes to have subscribers. We like to have subscribers. The Robin Williams episode did very well, apparently, with over 10,000 people viewing it. Next week is going to be even bigger with John Belushi, I presume. But right now, we are looking for you, the people at home, the people either in your underwear or watching on TV or mowing your lawn, listening to this. I don't know how you physically take in the product, but we are asking you at this point in the evening, or it could be the day, you could be in Korea, you could be in Japan, you could be at home with Otani nursing his legs. But this is a part of the show where you subscribe and like and hit the notification bell. Okay, that was some loud sipping. By the way, the H&H Bagels is 1498 Sunset Boulevard, in case anyone's in town. Okay, so we've got that, and we now will go to our sponsor, which is Biltong. Let me see if this right here, this bag is getting me through some very tense games. There was a game, I don't know if you heard about it, lasted 19 hours, 18 innings, 75 million baseballs were used, went to 11 o'clock at night. I didn't mind because I was home. I am so glad I did not go to that game because you're stuck without Biltong. The Dodgers will not let you smuggle this into the park unless you somehow get it on your body underneath your underwear or something to bring it in. They search you for everything now. They don't even let you bring in a bag. You have to bring in like a clear plastic backpack and maybe a bottle of water if they, feel good about it. But they want to sell you everything there, and they don't sell Biltong at Dodger Stadium. And I don't think they sell it in Toronto either at the stadium. So you're forced to eat Dodger dogs, which are not so bad, but it's nothing like Biltong USA, King of Biltong, Anton the man, who gave me this secret code that people apparently using this. Everything shocks me that anything works, but Mark G, the 10% off is the secret code to get the Biltong. And this is the one I'm working through right now, and will be empty by tonight's game for those people at home who are shipping this to me. These games go pretty long, and it's better than eating potato chips, popcorn, crackers, whatever the hell I would normally eat during a baseball game, which, as I said, can go 6 hours now. You could get 2 games in one if you're Toronto playing the Dodgers. We'll see what happens tonight. Last night was a one-off, but this is a big game tonight. Usually this game will decide the World Series, but we have to go back to Toronto, as everyone knows, and it will end in Toronto. Thank you, Michael. Try this. This is my favorite flavor, Angus. There's other flavors. I don't know what. I've only been to 2 or 3 of the flavors so far. But this is my favorite, the Angus. I put it in the microwave for about, I don't know, 10 seconds, and it becomes really juicy and a little warm or hot. And then it seems a little bit more to go down easier, and it feels softer, and I like it. But you do get this incredible product, which is the little miniature floss device made in China. You do get one of those with no extra charge. But try this. Look at the menu. There's a lot of other stuff on there. I think you'll enjoy it. Biltong USA. Ask for it by name. Use a secret code. Go to the website of them, biltongusa.com, and pick out what you need. Just try one. I think you'll be hooked like a lot of other people. Okay, got that. Let's see where we go now. Before we go into the birthdays, I wanted to just do the local this week in showbiz articles or events that are happening in show business to keep you up to date. These are stories that I picked out this week that I think are important, or they're important to me, so they might be important to you. The first one is this story about the new Miami Vice. I don't know if you people have been following this, but apparently Austin Butler has signed on to play the detective Sonny Crockett role that was what made Don Johnson. Austin Butler, I like him a lot. Michael B. Jordan apparently in line to play Ricardo Tubbs. Why they're remaking this again is because they've run out of ideas, but nevertheless, I like Austin Butler, and I liked Miami Vice. This could either be fantastic. It's being directed by a guy named Joseph Kosinski. And I don't think it's related to Jersey Kosinski, but yeah, this could be really good, or it could be terrible. So that's in the news. Okay, secondly in the news, Paul Schrader, the screenwriter who wrote Taxi Driver, among other storylines, he is getting a lot of flack for the growing dependence on AI that he's promoting. Apparently, Schrader is looking for a perfect AI script. He's a big pro AI guy out here, and this is really tearing Hollywood apart. And I touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but they're using AI for coverage on scripts now at the major agencies and the studios. So yeah, this is the article from Deadline on Schrader. He is obviously a maverick in Hollywood filmmaking. I wouldn't consider him to be mainstream, but he's made some, really iconic Hollywood films, like I said, Taxi Driver, which he wrote for Martin Scorsese. He wants to do or is claiming that within 2 years there'll be a complete AI film. He's looking to create an AI script, which he would oversee, and then turn it into an AI movie. People are not happy about this. I'll tell you that right now. The pro-AI movement is now battling the anti-AI movement. Schrader says, I think we're only 2 years away from the first AI feature. I was on the phone with somebody today who had a script, and he said it was perfect for AI. So This thing is going to come to a head at some point, and it's going to start happening with, I believe, background extras. Humans will be the last thing, but I think background props and like we were talking about the other day, show cars that are used in films may be AI'd in and then ending the careers of people who bring show cars into period movies. Different things like that may be the first to go. That's just my hunch. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so the Schrader story, and now I wanted to touch on the death of June Lockhart, who lived to be 100 years old, passed away at home with her daughter and granddaughter at her side at the age of 100. This is a woman who was in love with NASA as after she got out of show business, but she worked, as many of you know, in Lost in Space, and also the mother in Lassie, among a million other credits. But she was best known for Lost in Space. And after Lost in Space, she became like really one of the spokespeople for NASA. I did not know that. Attending numerous launches and landings over the decades, they honored her with the Exceptional Public Achievement Medal for impact on space exploration. And she said, unbeknownst to her, many viewers of Lost in Space turned out later, many of the astronauts were big fans of the show. She played Ruth in the Lassie TV series and Maureen Robinson in Lost in Space. She also appeared in Bewitched, Perry Mason, Gunsmoke, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Petticoat Junction, which I know is a lot of favorite for a lot of people out there. It was for me. Happy Days, Full House, Roseanne, Seventh Heaven. I mean, this chick worked. This was a working actress. But she started in 1925 at the age of 8 on a stage debut in the 1933 production of Peter Ibbotson at the Metropolitan Opera House. Wow. At 13, she made her screen debut as Belinda Cratchit in MGM's A Christmas Carol, starring her parents, Jean and Kathleen Lockhart. So she was a 100-year-old Nepo baby, maybe the original Nepo baby. Holy Christ. Wow. She was from the golden age of Hollywood. She died of natural causes at her Santa Monica home with her daughter, June Elizabeth, and her granddaughter, Christiana, at her side. Wow, what a great life. I mean, June Lockhart, I don't know, I guess we had the article up there. You could see a picture of her from that article, but people remember June Lockhart quite well. And Lassie was always talking to June Lockhart in that telepathic dog language that Lassie used to talk to people in that episode. When somebody, either Timmy was talking to Lassie through telepathy or the mother was talking to Lassie through telepathy. But Lassie was able to do things that no dog could ever do, except for Rin Tin Tin. But I wanted to move on to my top 5 baseball movies of all time. And there's others, but these are my top 5, and they include Bull Durham, The Natural, Field of Dreams is number 3, 8 Men Out is number 4, and I would say that For the Love of the Game was number 5. I guess this is Austin Butler playing in this thing, but here's Field of Dreams. It's got to be in the top 5. I don't know. Everybody's got their favorite baseball movies. You could put it down below. These are my top 5. I don't really rank them in order, but it's weird because For the Love of the Game, well, there's the Redford one. There's The Natural, which is kind of a I don't know how to put this. The Natural is really a surreal baseball movie in a lot of ways. But so is Field of Dreams. I mean, Field of Dreams has literally ghosts in it. But The Natural is For the Love of the Game. Yeah. I was just watching that a month or two ago, and it's directed by Sam Raimi, interestingly enough. The film itself was, I find it's hard to believe, but Kevin Costner was given a Razzie Award for this film, which cost about $50 million and grossed about 48. So it's considered a loser financially. But this is set at Yankee Stadium, the end of this pitcher's career for the Tigers, and he pitches a perfecto with the announcer Vin Scully calling the game against the Yankees at the very end of the season. And then his love affair with the late Kelly Preston goes on, and how he neglected that relationship. This movie holds up with baseball, without baseball. I'm not really sure what the critics kind of had mixed reviews, but not really sure what they were looking for. It was actually written by a woman, which is extremely rare for a baseball movie. So tell us down below what your favorite baseball movies were. This is one of my favorites because of Vin Scully, really, because he really steals the film announcing the game. And it's not just a game, it's a perfect game, kind of like Don Larson's pitching a perfect game in the World Series, or Koufax. This was just an end of the season game against the Yankees. But and Sam Raimi was a horror director. I never understood how Sam Raimi got involved in this particular movie. But Costner, John C. Reilly is the catcher, Brian Cox as the owner of the Tigers, and at the end of the game, you understand what the title is about. I don't want to give it away, but release date was in September 1999 for people who looking back. Now, in 1984, The Natural came out, and that was Robert Redford. It was directed by Barry Levinson, by the way. And Robert Duvall plays a great part in it as a reporter who is on the trail of Robert Redford's backstory as the Natural. And Glenn Close is in it, Kim Basinger, Barbara Hershey. I mean, it's an amazing cast. And it's based on the novel by Bernard Malamud, for people who didn't realize that, The Natural. And it's got some weird elements to it. Obviously, there is the Glenn Close killer, and then there's the Kim Basinger love interest. There may have been a child involved. I don't want to give that away. I think Richard Farnsworth was the manager. He gets to pitch against the Whammer at one point in a pickup game, and the Whammer is supposed to be Babe Ruth, which is kind of interesting. He strikes him out. There's some over-the-top scenes in this movie, but for a lot of people, it's their favorite baseball movie of all time, The Natural. Redford didn't actually look baseball-ish as Kevin Costner does. But he did an incredible job, as does Duvall and some other. He plays Roy Hobbs, for those that don't remember the film, set in the 1910s, 1920s in the Midwest. Hobbs had been shot in the stomach by this crazed woman, played by Glenn Close, if I recall. And this is a permanent injury that he has and drives him out of baseball. But he comes back with the last place New York team. At that point, they all have phony names. It's the New York Knights, and they're in last place, and he's like 35 at that point in 1939. And there's no record of him ever having played organized ball, because he didn't. But anyway, there's a lot of magic in it. It's a fantastic film, produced by Mark Johnson, by the way. Okay, that gets me back to Bull Durham, which is a Ron Shelton, Kevin Costner comedy with Robert Wool in it, and Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins, of course, produced by Tom Mount and Mark Berg, who I think were involved in Animal House, which we'll talk about next week. It's about the Durham Bulls, which is a single-A minor league team down in Durham, North Carolina. For those who don't know, Susan Sarandon plays a woman who usually picks up the newcomers romantically. She starts out with Tim Robbins and Nuke LaLoosh, who is Tim Robbins, who was a crazed pitcher that Crash Davis has been brought in to teach how to be a major leaguer, because he's going to go up to the bigs because he throws 102 miles an hour, but he's wild. So he comes into this thing to teach him how to be a major leaguer, and then the romance starts between Susan Sarandon and Kevin Costner, which is the main romance in the film. It's got some serious moments, some light moments, some great moments. 1988 came out. Now that was a box office hit. It grossed 50, cost 9 million, and that was very successful for the people who invested in that film. Now we get to the next Kevin Costner film, which is Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams is based on a book by a Canadian author, ironically, who was W.P. Kinsella, who wrote the book Shoeless Joe about Shoeless Joe Jackson, and also a mystical kind of movie with Amy Madigan, James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones playing J.D. Salinger, the reclusive author of Catcher in the Rye. And the reason James Earl Jones is in there is that Salinger threatened to sue the entire production if they even mentioned his name in the script. So they went in a completely different direction with a gigantic black guy named James Earl Jones. It doesn't really work for me. It never did. But nevertheless, the film, the budget was 15 million and it made like 85 million. So it was also a big hit. Now, there's some crazy things where they're trying to grow the corn and it wasn't growing fast enough as they were shooting the film. They had to grow the corn quicker to get up to Costner's height and the ball player's height so they could walk through the cornfields. The owner, this was shot in Iowa on a farm where they later built an actual field. There's some weird stuff in the film. Originally, Kevin Costner was not supposed to do this film, folks, and I'll give you 30 seconds to determine who passed on it. He actually said this would be This Is a Wonderful Life, the Frank Capra movie of his generation after he passed on it. It's a Wonderful Life. And the man was not Tom Cruise, it was Tom Hanks. And Hanks passed on it, loved the script, and the rest is history. Now, there's some other oddities in this film. There was a guy named Jimmy Stewart who was supposed to play the doctor in the film, and Jimmy Stewart passed on it. And Burt Lancaster came in to fill in for Jimmy Stewart. So that was kind of interesting. You know, and I spoke to Ray Liotta about this one time, and Ray and I were talking about this thing stuck in his craw his entire life. And poor Ray, rest his soul. He played Shoeless Joe Jackson in the movie, and the producers never told him that Jackson was a left-handed hitter. And the fans told him for the rest of his life, unfortunately for Ray Liotta, who plays Shoeless Joe as a right-handed batter. So he had to live with that the rest of his life. But nevertheless, a great performance by Ray Liotta as Shoeless Joe Jackson, who will also be part of the next movie, 8 Men Out. A lot of these guys overlap because 8 Men Out is directed by John Sayles in 1988. 8 Men Out is like an ensemble picture. Yeah, there's Christopher Lloyd, Charlie Sheen, David Strathairn, D.B. Sweeney. Everybody's in this thing. Michael Lerner plays the gangster from Chicago who rigs the World Series. It was also a book by Elliot Azonoff that was kicking around for years. In fact, John Sayles originally had Martin Sheen playing third, but he aged out and got Charlie Sheen to play left, which I always thought was kind of funny. Based on the 1919 Black Sox, which was also the name of the National Lampoon softball team, which we modeled ourselves after. They were so heavily favored, not unlike the Dodgers, that the Cincinnati Reds, the World Series was 9 games back then, if I remember. They threw the World Series with about 5 players involved. The rest of them were not involved. Charlie Sheen plays very well. Absolutely. You could tell who could play and who can't play. The Arnold Rothstein character by Michael Lerner was fantastic. Cusack was great. Christopher Lloyd, Charlie Sheen was great. And the movie did not make any money, oddly enough. It cost about $6 million and grossed $6 million. but the interplay between the characters is really fantastic, and it's one of my favorites. It's based on Charles Comiskey's, the owner of the White Sox, being a skinflint, and how he underpaid these great players and literally forced them to paint the stadium in the off season because they were contracted for the full year. This guy drove them in a lot of ways to throw the World Series. Not that there's any excuse for it. They were banned from baseball for the rest of their lives, even though they were acquitted in the trial. The documents and their confessions were stolen by the Chicago mob out of a safe in the courthouse. They broke in and stole their confessions. So the trial was rigged and they were acquitted, and they brought in a guy, a former judge named Kennesaw Mountain Landis, to be the first commissioner of baseball. And as his first act of baseball as a commissioner, he banned these guys, these 8 men, out from ever playing in the game again. And Shoeless Joe, the reason people were so down on Shoeless Joe is he hit well over 300 during the World Series and didn't take the money and didn't throw the game. He actually had a fantastic World Series, but nevertheless, he didn't snitch. And Kennesaw Mountain Landis banned him for life. And there was always this urban myth that he played with these various pickup teams throughout the country, including House of David, which was a Jewish baseball team where they wore long beards. There were sightings of Shoeless Joe throughout the Midwest for many years. No one knows if he ever played. It could have been urban myth. We're not really sure. But the fact of the matter is, when Houston stole the World Series from the Dodgers a number of years ago, they did not suspend the players. They did not ban the players. They merely fired the GM and the upper above people, which was outrageous. And one of those is playing, or was playing, for Toronto until he pulled a muscle on his back the other day, which I was not unhappy with. Okay. That being George Springer, for people who don't know, one of the cheating elements of the famous Houston team that cheated and stole the World Series against the Dodgers a couple of years ago. And that is not speculation. They have all confessed to it. So, okay. Those are my top 5 baseball movies of all time. Yeah, I love 61. I mean, there's others. I love A League of Their Own. You know, the Penny Marshall one with Tom Hanks. But I'm just picking my top 5 of these baseball movies because it's World Series week. You can put down below what your favorite baseball movies are. Yeah, you may have come out to open a liquor store. I don't know. I'm just talking about playing around the country. I'm not sure what he did after that, but there is a couple of birthdays I wanted to get to today. And let me see. The first one, October 26th, is Jackie Coogan. I'm going to start with Jackie Coogan because everyone knows Jackie Coogan. He died in 1984, but Jackie Coogan, people know him as Uncle Fester from the Addams Family. His birthday was this week, October 26th. He was born in 1914, but he was also in The Kid, which was kind of what put him on the map, the Charlie Chaplin movie. And he was also in Oliver Twist. But people only remember him, right? People only remember him for the Addams Family, interestingly enough, because he had that iconic look with the shaved head, and he put that light bulb over his head, and he's wearing these black monk robes for some reason. I don't know if anybody ever could explain why he was wearing that outfit, but oh, that's kind of an interesting photo. I've never seen that one. Look, he's like a dandy here in the 1930s. Very nice photo. Okay, so Jackie Coogan, also born on October 26th, 1936, as a woman named Shelley Morrison, who died in 2019. She was on General Hospital. And Will and Grace is probably more what people remember Shelley Morrison for. October 22nd, 1942 is the birth date of a guy named Bob Hoskins, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Brazil. He was in Hook. My favorite was he was in Nixon. I think he played J. Edgar Hoover in Nixon, if I remember correctly. died in 2014. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was just fantastic, and that really put Bob Hoskins on the map. He was also in like Hollywoodland, that Superman movie, um, about the making of the TV show Superman. I think he played a studio head in that. Very versatile British. Mona Lisa, a great independent film. There's a great shot of Bob Hoskins. Fantastic actor, very versatile. Was able to play without a British accent when he needed to, or with a British accent, which was normal for him. But he could play a bad guy. He could play a good guy. Really a fantastic actor, Bob Hoskins. Also today, Fever Pitch, yeah. Also today, Jacqueline Smith. Many of you know her from Charlie's Angels. Born in Houston, October 26, 1945. She was one of the Angels. And but also in, I don't know if people remember this, she was also in the Born Identity. I don't know if she was in all of them, but she was in that original one. If people remember, Jacqueline Smith. I think she might have started out as a model. I'm not really sure. Holly Woodlawn. Oh, there she is. Look how beautiful. She probably was a model. I mean, she's stunning in that photo. Pat Sajak. Happy birthday, Pat Sajak, who was at the Dodger game the other night. October 26, 1946, Wheel of Fortune. Born in Chicago, loves the Dodgers apparently. And he was there, along with everybody else from Flea to Brad Pitt to Harry and his princess last night. Lauren Tews, who played Julie McCoy on The Love Boat, October 26, 1953, for people who follow Love Boat stuff. Braddock, Pennsylvania in 1953, gave birth to Lauren Tews. Okay, there's a guy born in 1931 on October 26 named Henry Weinblatt. He went by Henry Garrett. And you may not know the name, but you know who he was when you see him. He was in a show called Car 54. He was he was one of the cops in Car 54, but he was also a professional wrestler known as the Minnesota Farm Boy. But he was really born in Harlem and raised in Monticello, New York. Hank Garrett, as he went, was okay. I'll tell you this one. This one you really remember. The opening scenes of 3 Days of the Condor with Robert Redford. There is a postal delivery man who shows up and has to come into the office of the CIA to get a signature. He's wearing a rain hat over his postal hat, like a plastic hat, and he opens up with an Uzi and kills everyone inside of the CIA office except Redford, who is out eating lunch. That's Hank Garrett. That's the guy. He's a fantastic character actor. Here he is in Car 54. I don't know if you've got the photo of him with the gun from 3 Days of the Condor, where he's impersonating the postal delivery guy from. It's such a bone-chilling scene that even to this day, I've seen it 500 times. Even to this day, when I see that scene, how methodical the elimination is of the people in this office, and it's a brownstone in the Upper East Side or Midtown East, and he goes in and he inch by inch eliminates every single person in the building, including Redford's girlfriend, an Asian actress who I think is the last to go. But yeah, what a chilling scene with him with that machine gun. Guess whose birthday it is? Speaking of Tom Hanks, it is his wife's birthday, Rita Wilson, October 26, 1956. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which I think she produced. I don't think she started out as an actress, but I can't remember any of her credits, except being the wife of Tom Hanks, which I guess is credit enough. I know these ladies love this guy, Dylan McDermott, from The Practice and Steel Magnolias, and he is Hank Works, yeah. Dylan McDermott is currently an FBI Most Wanted series. He's still working. I remember him from In the Line of Fire. McDermott, a very serviceable actor. born October 26, 1961, currently working in FBI Most Wanted on, it might be CBS. I'm not sure of the channel. Also, Carrie Elways, who was English, born October 26, 1962. You remember him from Princess Bride, but also I remember him from Glory. That's the one I remember Carrie Elways from. Okay, here's a guy in the news lately, October 26, 1967, and a guitar player from New Zealand, Mr. Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban, currently in the news. Yeah, Hamburger Hill. Not my favorite Vietnam War movie, but McDermott's in that one. Yeah, Keith Urban. I don't know what's going on with this divorce. She makes 26 million a year. He makes only 7 million a year. So somebody's going to have to pay somebody. I think the kids are grown up. I don't think it's a custody issue. But Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban could be messy. I don't know. There's Keith. I've met him. My close friend of mine was his guitar player for many years, Brad, out of Texas. Toured with him, said he's a down guy. He says, he's a great guy. I don't know what else. I don't know what happened here other than maybe they just grew apart from each other. Nicole Kidman appears to be working in 500 films a year. So maybe that's her problem, Malcolm. I don't know. But yeah, Keith Urban, really one of the nicest guys in music. I'm not sure that he isn't a lady. Yeah, Keith Urban. Yeah. Anyway, so that'll be resolved over the next year. I'm sure that's not the last story on it. October 26, 1971, Anthony Rapp, who was in Star Trek Discovery and Rent. October 26, 1973, Seth MacFarlane, who a lot of people love, Family Guy, American Dad. I loved Ted, the movie. I thought Ted was hysterical. From Kent, Connecticut. Birthday was on Sunday. Freddie DeCorvida, oddly enough, the producer of The Tonight Show, born in 1910, October 27th, died in 2001, a legendary TV figure who ran The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson with an iron fist. There's a million stories on Freddie DeCorvida. Ruby D, aka Ruby D. Wallace, a Raisin in the Sun, American gangster, born October 27th, 1922, died in 2014, beloved African-American actress. October 27, 1946, saw the birth of a director-producer named Ivan Reitman. Ivan Reitman is going to come. Ted was hysterical. That's right, Patrick. Ivan Reitman is going to come up next week in the Bellucci episode. But just tell you the things that Reitman was involved in: Ghostbusters, Stripes, Dave. He was born in Slovakia, by the way. People don't know. He was raised in Canada, but he's Slovakian. Meatballs. Of course, he produced Animal House and Heavy Metal, another part of National Lampoon, which I was associate publisher of that, and of course, editor of National Lampoon, which we'll get into next week. He died in 2022, but Reitman is a huge part of American comedy, and in a lot of ways unheralded. He is a gigantic figure in American comedy. When I mention those films, people know he either directed or produced all of them. 1939, October 27th, a obscure guy named John Cleese from a group called Monty Python, Faulty Towers, The Meaning of Life, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There's a picture of Cleese, one of the funniest men in comedy. Those shows are impeccable. Those movies are unbelievable. Life of Brian, people remember him for Life of Brian. He is, I don't know where he is now. He's still alive. Yeah, Faulty Towers, yeah, which has a lot of fans. I was not one of them, but I was a fan of these other movies, and of course, Monty Python's Flying Circus, which was absolute genius. Fran Lebowitz, the curmudgeon author, born October 27, 1950. Roberto Benigni. How about Roberto Benigni from Life is Beautiful? Wins the Oscar, climbs over all the chairs. If people remember, the Italian actor, born October 27, 1952, who wins the Oscar for Best Actor and for the movie Life is Beautiful, and then does this whole thing climbing over everything, going crazy, which was part of Oscar history, if people remember that. Kelly Osbourne, whose father recently passed away, who I knew. Never met Kelly, but I did meet a number of times Jack. And obviously her father, October 27, 1984 is her birthday. And this is a special one. And for the ladies at home, Edith Head. Now, Edith Head, yeah, Dove, right? Edith Head won 8 Oscars. Edith Head was the costume designer for Hollywood for decade after decade after decade. She was born in 1897, October 28th. Her last movie was 1973 for The Sting, that she won an Oscar for costume design. Born not in exotic England, as people might think, but San Bernardino, California. Here's a photo. This is her, born a Jewish family in San Bernardino in the early 1900s. I mean, she was born in 1897. What the Jews were doing in San Bernardino at that time was they were involved in the clothing business, and that's how she got her start in costuming. Every major film you've ever seen that has costuming to it involved. She worked a lot with Hitchcock. The women know her work better than I do, but the last picture she made was The Sting in 1973, which won multiple Oscars, and one for her. She had 8. I don't know how many people have more than 8. I'm gonna have to look that up. Pat Sajak is obviously mental. Okay. Jane Alexander, I don't know if people remember her from The Great White Hope in Kramer versus Kramer, October 28th, 1939. How about Dennis Franz? People love Dennis Franz from NYPD Blue and Hill Street Blues. I don't know why both those cop shows had the word blue in it. I guess the color of the uniform, right? But Dennis Franz, October 28th, 1944, apparently still cooking from what I understand. Let's see. Oh, this is my favorite. You may not know her, but you know her voice. Well, you know her from Designing Women. She was born in Nashville, October 28th, 1952, Annie Potts. And Annie Potts is to me, is the woman who answers the phone going, "Hello, Ghostbusters. How can I help you?" And she's the voice of the Ghostbusters office manager in those movies. That's how I know Annie Potts. But a lot of people know her from Designing Women, and she's worked a lot. Oh, Dennis Franz on a cruise ship. I like that. There's Annie Potts right there. Wow, that's the Ghostbusters ones on the left, and that must be Designing Women on the right. Lauren Holly, October 28th, 1963. She was a looker. She was in Dumb and Dumber, NCIS Now, What Women Want, Ford Fairlane, which I recently talked about in the Andrew Dice Clay episode. She was fantastic in that. Any Given Sunday, the Oliver Stone film. I forgot she was in that. Lauren Holly, currently working on NCIS, from what I understand, born in 1963, October 28th. Still cooking. Absolutely stunning woman. Oh my God, this is a weird one. This is a weird one. October 28th, 1964, Griffin O'Neill. Griffin O'Neill, the son of Ryan O'Neill, was the son from Joanna Moore. That was the wife who begat Griffin O'Neill. Griffin O'Neill one night was arrested with Ryan O'Neill for having a fist fight. Both of them had mugshots put out, and I think that's obviously Ryan O'Neill on the left. I think that's Griffin O'Neill on the right. He has a half brother named Redmond O'Neill, who I met a couple of times, and then of course Tatum. He's Tatum's dad. But Griffin O'Neill at one point got shot in the stomach by Ryan in another fight. Turned on to cocaine at the age of 9 by his father, Ryan O'Neill, and dealt with addiction his entire life. I think he moved to a border town south of San Diego, in the U.S., but I think he's living down there right at the border. Left L.A. a number of years ago. Really tormented, troubled life. He was in. I'll just tell you this. He was in about 10, 11 films. He was getting started, and then he was supposed to be in Gardens of Stone, the Francis Ford Coppola movie, but he had to withdraw because he was the cause of the death of Francis Ford Coppola's son through a boating accident where both of them were high as a kite, and he actually ended the life of Francis Ford Coppola's son. And that's kind of where it really went out of control for Griffin O'Neill. Very sad story, but not at least he's still alive. Let me put it that way. And Coppola is also still alive, oddly enough. October 28th, 1967, America's Sweetheart was born today. Her name is Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman, Mystic Pizza, born in Smyrna, Georgia. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it in Georgian. But she is a woman of the South. Let me put it that way. I think Pretty Woman really put her on the map. That movie made her a household name, but fantastic actress and a pretty woman on top of everything else. October 28th, 1966, Andy Richter, the Ed McMahon of Conan O'Brien. Happy birthday. October 28th, 1974, Joaquin Phoenix, a man that I know. Gladiator, Walk the Line, The Master, born in a place that you will never guess. Try to guess, while I sip this coffee, where Joaquin Phoenix was born. You're never going to get it. So I'm going to tell you, San Juan, Puerto Rico. And he was part of a sex cult, and it's a whole crazy story. Smyrna. Aaron Brockovich is great too. That's absolutely true. 1891, Fanny Brice was born on October 29th. Baby Snuka, Ziegfeld Follies. Funny Girl was her story of her life with Barbra Streisand. The reason I mentioned that in 1964. She died in 1951, but Streisand plays Fanny Brice in Funny Girl, which came out in 1964. It's a little complicated, but Fanny Brice was a huge star. October 29th, 1943, Don Simpson was born in Seattle. Flashdance, worked with Jerry Bruckheimer, all of those Bruckheimer Simpson films, Beverly Hills Cop, Top Gun. Worked quite a bit, and he grew up in Alaska, of all places. There's a Don Simpson, Days of Thunder, I think, with Tom Cruise. Huge cocaine problem, and I led to his demise, sadly. And then Bruckheimer had to work on his own, died in 1991. Just a legendary drug abuser in this town. How about this guy's birthday, October 29th, 1947? Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss, apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz to you Canadian fans. Apparently, this is the life of Viva's uncle, Viva on David Freiheit on another channel, which he doesn't seem to care about. I care more about it than he does, David. But the apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, What About Bob, is one of my favorite Dreyfuss movies of all time. Him and an insane patient that he has named Bill Murray, who literally stalks him. Fantastic movie. Mr. Holland's Opus. He wins an Oscar for The Goodbye Girl. And another favorite of mine is Let It Ride with an old friend, the late David Johansen. Thank you, Diffuse. The Joaquin Phoenix, a couple of books. Thank you so much. I'm just getting rolling here because I wanted to talk a little bit about Dreyfuss. I've had some encounters with Richard Dreyfuss that I want to tell you about. But Moon Over Parador was another obscure Dreyfuss film that I love. Like I said, Let It Ride with David Johansen is a fantastic. Of course, Jaws and Close Encounters, that goes without saying. But before I worked at Lampoon, I had a straight job waiting to get my job at Lampoon as an editor. And I worked at, which I talked about in this episode, the custom shirt shop in Manhattan, right at Rockefeller Center and Fifth Avenue, and then the one on 58th Street. But I think it was the one at Rockefeller Center. Yeah, it was. I was working at the one at Rockefeller Center, and a drunken, not afterwards, before Dreyfuss came into the store, Richard Nixon was in the store, and he was a regular customer of mine. And Nixon had a photographic memory, knew everybody's backstory, never forgot a clue about anyone. So I was waiting on Nixon, and he left with his little French bodyguard. And moments after that, and I mean, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes after that, Dreyfuss comes in drunk with a couple of his agents. And I knew Dreyfuss had a thing for Nixon. So I said to Dreyfuss, "You'll never guess who just left." And he said, "Who?" I said, "Richard Nixon." And he said, "Which way did he go?" And I said, "He went south on Fifth Avenue." So Dreyfuss bolts out of the store, starts running down Fifth Avenue, leaving me with his two agents or manager, whoever they were. He doesn't come back for like 25 minutes. And I'm having to make this small chat with his manager and producer. And all of them had been out to a restaurant, for lunch, and they had some number of drinks. And he comes back, Richard Dreyfuss, panting, couldn't catch his breath, sweating profusely. This was in August. And he finally catches his breath, and he says, "The son of a bitch got away." And I just cracked up laughing. And years later, I had a project on Jonas Salk versus Albert Sabin in the race for the cure for polio. And I wanted Dreyfuss to play Jonas Salk, the hero who discovered the cure for polio. And I met with him, and I reminded him of this story, which he didn't even remember. But nevertheless, Dreyfuss did not want to play the hero in the movie. He wanted to play the bad guy, which was Albert Sabin, who was a real Verbissina. And I said, "Richard, I can't get the movie made with you playing Albert Sabin. I need you to play Jonas Salk." And then he started to try to sell me on him playing Albert Sabin, the antagonist, the Salieri to Mozart, if you will, in this biopic. And he says, "When I commit to a movie, I commit 100%. Nothing distracts me. The door opens up and a 5'11" Russian supermodel comes in. And she says, 'Are we going to lunch or what?' And he gets up and he says, 'Good luck, Mark,' and leaves. And I never saw him again." Anyway, happy birthday to Richard Dreyfuss. October 29th, 1947. I love you. October 29th, 1948, Kate Jackson, speaking of Charlie's Angels, the Rookies, born in Birmingham, Alabama. Did not know that. Did not know that. But must have missed the loud sipping of your coffee. Yeah, it's okay. October 29th, 1971. Here's another of my favorites. Thank you, Dina. Winona Ryder, also known as Winona Horowitz around my house, for Heathers, Edward Scissorhands. She's born, and this might be a coincidence, she's born in Winona, Minnesota. So it's maybe the origin of her name, at least the first name. I remember her being the host of, there's Winona Ryder. Now, she was embroiled in a shoplifting scandal because she has some sort of shoplifting addiction, and she kept getting arrested for shoplifting. And one of the weeks she was arrested, I was up in the booth at Saturday Night Live with my old friend Hal Wilner, who was the musical director of SNL. And I was visiting him in the booth, and she was the host, and she was down below. And Hal said to me, "She's crazy." And I said, "What do you mean she's crazy?" He goes, "Well, everything's mic'd up down there." It was during rehearsals, and she's sitting at a a table for a cafe scene, but she's by herself, Winona Ryder. And he says, let's listen in on the microphones. They're super, super sensitive. And she's talking to herself, and I mean babbling incoherently to herself, by herself at this table. And we were just couldn't stop laughing. And it was, we weren't mic'd, we were up in the booth. But I never forgot that night when she hosted SNL and she just sounded like a crazy person sitting at that table by herself, waiting for the other cast members. As I said, it was a dress rehearsal. But tip of the hat, happy birthday to Girl Interrupted, Winona Ryder, one of my favorites. When they love that driver story. Yeah, I just remember that one. I completely forgot it. October 29th, 1980, Ben Foster, one of the great character actors in current American cinema. Hell or High Water, 3:10 to Yuma, Hell or High Water with Chris Pine, of course. Fantastic movie. Ruth Gordon, October 30th, 1896. You may know her from, she died in 1985. But nevertheless, this week in show business honors tip of the hat to Ruth Gordon from Harold and Maude, Where's Papa, and of course, Rosemary's Baby. Looks like someone out of Star Wars right there. She, I remember her most from Rosemary's Baby, but also from Where's Papa, one of the great George Segal movies, and Harold and Maude, of course. Great American actress, worked all the time. Michael Winner, October 30th, 1935. He was an English producer director involved in The Big Sleep, Death Wish, all the Bronson movies directed by Michael Winner, and Scorpio with Burt Lancaster, which I'm going to use down in Dallas on November 22nd when we go down and do a American cinema and political assassination seminar down there. Scorpio is one of the films. Henry Winkler, there's an obscure guy. October 30th, 1945. Happy Days, Night Shift, I think with Michael Keaton. And Lords of Flatbush, which people don't remember, him and Stallone together as greasers in Lords of Flatbush. Orson Welles avoided Ruth Gordon, considering her quite mad. She sounded like a crackpot. I don't know if she was or she wasn't. But October 30th, 1958, a guy who does incredible impersonations, Kevin Pollak. Kevin Pollak, Usual Suspects, Grumpy Old Men, and he was born here. He was born in California, San Francisco, oddly enough. Kevin Pollak with the incredible Captain Kirk impersonation and many, many others. Great actor, great comic, great impersonator. Okay. Ethel Waters, 1896, October 31st on Halloween, Beulah, and she also sang Stormy Weather. Oh, here's one. You may know her. Her name was Frances Smith. She was born October 31st, 1912 in Uvalde, Texas. You may know her as Dale Evans, but her real name was Frances Smith, and she was featured on the Roy Rogers show with Roy Rogers, Dale Evans. I don't know the name of her horse. Maybe somebody knows. I know Trigger was Roy Rogers's horse. What was the name of Dale Evans's horse for 50 cookies? When I hear it, I'll remember, but it just slipped my mind. Dale Evans's horse for 50, Bob. Oh, look at that. Wow. Wow. She looks like a Texan, doesn't she, ladies? That's the face of Texas to me. And I mean that in a positive way. Wow. What a great look. Natalie loves Columbo. Well, who doesn't, Natalie? Okay. How about this guy? October 31st, 1936. He played Little Joe on Bonanza. Little House on the Prairie, Highway to Heaven. Born, oddly enough, in Forest Hills, Queens. Of course, it's Michael Landon, who died too young in 1991. Man, was he a household legend. Let's take a look at the little Joe here. Wow. Wow. He looks so young there. Wow. 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 How about this guy? October 31st, 1939, Ron Rifkin. You may know him as the district attorney in LA Confidential, who I believe is hung out the window by his feet by by an Australian actor in LA Confidential. You can take a look at that movie when you get a chance. But Rifkin was great. Yeah, great hair, huh, Susan? Wow. Okay. Oh yeah, there he is. Wow, this is an incredible turn that he pulls off in LA Confidential, which has a number of stars in it. Fantastic. Um, yeah, Russell Crowe, of course, hangs him by his feet out the window. I'm sure it was a set, but it looked very dangerous. He's flossing his teeth in the window. He's also, I think, a closeted gay man based on the plot, where he is lured into a thing by Kevin Spacey, not with Kevin Spacey, but by Kevin Spacey, or by the bad guys. Uh, Buttermilk. I never would have gotten that. I never would have gotten that. Thank you so much, Patrick. Um, okay, October 31st. This is a woman. I don't know. She's in 250 films. I didn't know that. I know her from The Sting, Private Benjamin, Sally Kirkland. Sally Kirkland somehow has worked in 250 movies, which I couldn't believe when I saw that. And here's the obscure thing about Sally Kirkland. She came out of Andy Warhol's factory in New York, which was a film studio. That's where she got her start. Yeah, MASH and just an astounding amount of films. Yeah, just there's a picture. Wow, she always seemed crazy to me. I don't know. Sally Kirkland always seemed like she had a screw loose. Yeah, JFK movie. Um, so many films with tiny little parts. Hot Lips Houlihan, just crazy amount of work that this woman was involved in. Happy birthday this week in show business, 1944, October 31st. Sally Kirkland was born. Also in The Sting, if I remember correctly. Okay, so we're now going to go to Brian Doyle Murray. You want to talk about weird birthdays? October 31st, 1945, Groundhog Day, as mentioned, Ivan Reitman. Caddyshack, Vacation, the brother of Bill Murray. I think there's 7 siblings. John Murray was a guy I used to hang out with, but I think I've met the other Murrays. And JFK, where he plays Jack Ruby, one of the great turns of all time. Loretta Swit had Hot Lips. Brian Doyle Murray still working. I think he's doing a lot of animation. Yeah, what an interesting career, Brian. Also from Second City, the improv group out of Chicago that Bellucci got started on, and Brian Doyle Murray worked with National Lampoon on the Radio Hour, doing various voices, the Radio Dinner, and some of the other stuff that Lampoon put out back in the day. He was also, didn't he play like the head of the caddies in Caddyshack? I think he was the head guy. Actually underrated because of his brother, obviously, but there's also Jim Bellucci and John Bellucci. I mean, there's a lot of these brother combos where the second brother is underrated. But if the older brother, I had Murray's autograph at one point, he told me to stay sober. Yeah, from that family, that's wishful thinking. That's a large group of drinkers there out of Chicago. October 31st, 1963, Rob Schneider, SNL. Speaking of SNL, October 31st, 1950, John Candy, born. This is 3 in a row. Born on Halloween, Rob Schneider, Brian Doyle Murray, and John Candy. Uncle Buck, he's going to get his own episode very shortly on Wassup with Lordbuckly. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, died way too young, 1994. Also JFK. Him and Brian Doyle Murray. There's John Candy. Started out SCTV up north, and he's in so many different films, just like cameo appearances by Candy. I just remember her from Stripes, you know, coming into that scene with a martini glass coming down the plane ramp, the plane stairs. I want to party with you, you know. Wow. I mean, we're going to do John Candy, I think, after Bellucci, the way this thing is lining up. So maybe in 3 weeks, we'll do John Candy because I'm starting to get into that. Okay. November 1st, 1972, Toni Collette, The Sixth Sense. I think she's from like New South Wales or some obscure place down there for your New South Walesians. Also November 1st, 1957, Mr. Julia Roberts, ladies and gentlemen, Lyle Lovett out of Texas, somewhere in Texas. I am not sure where he's from in Texas. Married to Julia Roberts briefly, Gilbert Gottfried made a career of just jokes about Lyle Lovett, thinking that he got beaten out by Lyle Lovett. A whole slew of Gilbert Gottfried jokes about Lyle Lovett. But also, there's a picture of Lyle Lovett. I mean, it's because of his looks that Gilbert felt slighted that he couldn't be with Julia Roberts, who he loved so much. The situation becomes November 1st. I don't know how long the marriage was, maybe a year or something. November 1st, 1944, a very good friend of mine was born, died in 2024. I can't believe it's that recent. Kinky Friedman ran for governor of Texas. Kinky Friedman had a band called the Texas Jew Boys. One of the greatest songs ever written was Ride 'em Jew Boy off of his album. One of the great Texans of all time. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, but he lived most of his life in Texas and had a rescue dog operation down there for many, many years. And I think he could have won if he had the right campaign manager. There's the Kingster, one of the great Americans of all time, obviously one of the great Texans of all time. And he was great on Don Imus, but he was great with me at 4 o'clock in the morning sitting on a couch where he was extremely funny. Kinky, you know, I first met him at the Lone Star Cafe at the height of his fame, and we became close at that time, as did Ratso and others from Lampoon. We kind of bonded, and Kinky was one of us, and sorely, sorely missed. One of the truly great Americans, one of the great show business people of all time. Incredible novelist, had written a bunch of novels. Got out of touring. He toured with Dylan in the Rolling Thunder Review. I think in the second part of Rolling Thunder, Kinky toured with Bob. Lyle was from Klein, Texas, not Houston. I don't know what that's about, but nevertheless, just sorely missed Kinky. One of the greats. Finally, November 1st, 1972, the last birthday is Jenny McCarthy, the Playboy Playmate. I think it was October 1993. If somebody wants to take the staples out of her and have a look, I'm willing to take a look at it at this point in the show. But happy birthday. For some reason, November 1st, 1972 was a birthday for a lot of obscure people, unconnected people, let me put it that way. But Lyle Lovett and Kinky, they probably knew each other, probably played together at some point. Okay, so let's get into, that's enough with the birthdays. So let's John Candy, the movie Volunteers with Tom Hanks. Not so much. Jenny, worst plastic surgery ever. That's harsh, bro. That's kind of harsh for a guy on a tractor. You know, when you're a Playboy ex-playmate, you got problems to hold up and all kinds of things to do. Okay, let's move on to events that happened this week in show business, because those are the birthdays. October 26, 1984 was the week, this day of the week and the year 1984 when The Terminator was released with obviously Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, James Cameron, the famous Canadian director. There's a picture of Schwarzenegger, one of the great movies, action pictures, futuristic action pictures, made a lot. There's Linda Hamilton with that crazy 80s hairdo. Wow. Wow. She was great in this. Really great role for an actress in this. but released October 26, 1984. October 27, 1947 was the first performance of You Bet Your Life on ABC Radio, starring an obscure comic named Groucho Marx. Uh, the TV show will have a bird coming down, say the secret word, and win $100 or $50 or whatever it was back then. But the reality of it is, this show was the beginning of a new life for Groucho as a game show host, where he got to riff and crack jokes about various people, some of them famous, who ended up on You Bet Your Life. One of them was Lordbuckly himself. Lordbuckly ended up on the TV version, not the radio version. This is the ABC radio version, 1947. Also, October 27, 1954, Walt Disney's first show premieres on ABC, again ABC, this time TV, called Disneyland. Here's a poster for it. 7:30, Disney comes to ABC. Which the TV program of the year? What's it about? Well, take fantasy fun and a trip to the past, into the future, and a glimpse of nature's secrets. Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen Disneyland, but I live in Disney World right here because everything around me is Disney related. When you border, yeah, there he is. Wow, the master himself, former FBI informant, but he was ratting out commies, so I guess he justified it. October 27, 1955, Rebel Without a Cause released. James Dean, Natalie Wood, directed by the legendary Nicholas Ray. This will alter film history in a lot of ways in terms of the zeitgeist of the culture. James Dean playing a young teen. Oh, and the father was what's his face with the round face. Who was the father? Tell me the name of the father in the chat. Mr. Magoo, I think he was at one point. This is a great jacket. Some of it was shot in my backyard over here at the Griffith Observatory, where I went for a hike yesterday, and I will after this show. There's a knife fight at the Griffith, in the back of the Griffith Observatory, which you see with the skylight of LA down below. Great, great scene shot by Nicholas Ray. Jim Backus. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. I couldn't remember. I think he played Mr. Magoo. Maybe the voice of Mr. Magoo, or anyway, so October 27, 1995, Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage and Elizabeth Shue, directed by Mike Figgis, who is also a jazz musician, also plays jazz in the movie. Richard Lewis was in it. I think we mentioned that during the Richard Lewis episode. This led to the song eventually by Sheryl Crow, Leaving Las Vegas, where she went on to the David Letterman show claiming that the song was autobiographical and leading to the self-deletion of the book's author, who was watching her that night in the Hollywood Hills and wasn't happy to hear that his work was usurped by Sheryl Crow. That then led to me doing an episode on Sheryl Crow from my series that I had on VH1 called Rock and Roll Confidential. I did an episode called The Curse of Sheryl Crow. There's other things she was involved in besides this Leaving Las Vegas incident, but nevertheless, the movie, October 27th, 1995, was released, and it's a highly watchable, highly fascinating Nick Cage, Elizabeth Shue romance. She plays a hooker. He plays a former screenwriter who takes a buyout and goes to end his life in a week in Las Vegas. Here's a big one. October 28th, 1939. I forgot about this. Warner Brothers releases the mega classic, The Roaring Twenties, with James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart. This film, even if you watch it today, watch it on a big screen. take it in its entirety. This is an incredible, the #1 gangster classic of the Warner Brothers gangster era. Raoul Walsh, of course, the director. Um, all kinds of people in this movie. There is, I think, a scene with a machine gun that I think Cagney goes around the corner and he's chased with a machine gun. And they brought in oh, that might be Public Enemy though. I have to check this. I don't want to go too far. Might be Public Enemy. Okay, 1956, October 29th, the first night on NBC of the Huntley Brinkley Report. They will stay together for many years. Oh, look at that. There they are. Huntley Brinkley. Wow, they're at probably the convention in 1956 or something there. Well, they went on the air October. I bet you it was for that convention. Well, I don't know if it's Democratic or Republican, but 1956 was a presidential election year. Interesting. The first night on together as a team, and teams were not popular back then. October 29th, 1971, Frank Zappa releases the musical mockumentary 200 Motels with the Mothers of Invention. Oh, there it is. That's a pretty famous poster. The Mothers of Invention, Ringo Starr, and Theodore Bickel. Try putting those three together in a movie and see what you get. That's interesting. One of my favorite. Oh, look, there's Zappa. Has some interesting names for his kids. One of them, Moon Unit, is my favorite. I don't know if that's Moon Unit right there. It could be. The 1921, October 30th, The Sheik is released, starring the silent film star Rudolph Valentino. Released in LA. Rudolph Valentino, when he dies, may have had the largest funeral in Hollywood history with just all women, tens of thousands of them. It took hours and hours and hours to go past the casket. Women were throwing themselves onto his casket. This man was revered as a romantic interest for women in the United States in the 1920s. But today, October 30th, yeah, there's a scenes from The Sheik. I mean, this was a classic silent film. These are all in the Library of Congress, by the way. Okay, October 30th, 1938. This was a big day, and I'll tell you why. Moon was the least talented Zappa. Well, who knows? It was Moon Unit, by the way. I don't know if it was just Moon. Moon Unit, Quan. I don't know how to explain this. Oh, here it is. Maybe this can explain it. The fake radio war stirs terror. Now, this people know this story. It's the H.G. Wells book, War of the Worlds, read by Orson Welles and his Mercury Theater players over the air, which drives half of New Jersey crazy, thinking it was real. Many of them heading into the Lincoln Tunnel to escape New Jersey. There's so many stories. It's taken on urban myth proportions. Wells loved it because it gave an immense amount of publicity. He had to come out the next day. Now, this doesn't happen on Halloween, by the way. This happens on Sunday, the 30th. The next day, the 31st, I don't know if we have a copy of the front of the New York Times, but the next day was a Monday, if I remember. And that's when the New York Times covered the story, was the next day with a front page story about the event, so the story did not happen on Halloween. It happened the day before Halloween. But nevertheless, I mean, a panic ensued and people flipped the shit out because they thought that the landing UFOs were emitting. Here it is. Yeah. Again, yeah, that's Monday, October 31st. Correct. Radio listeners in panic, taking war drama as fact. I don't know if it's a war drama, but I guess War of the Worlds is trying to fit in the headline. Many flee homes, escape gas raid from Mars, phone call swamp police, a broadcast at Wells Fantasy. Yeah, I mean, Wells was not unhappy about this. I'll put it that way. And people did, I think one or two people actually accidentally died. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that. It was somebody lost their life in some sort of mishap, as far as we know. But there were other people got hurt. There were people who just flipped the hell out and tried to escape New Jersey because of the landing of the spacecrafts. Everything was fictionalized. They had great sound effects, incredible actors who were reading these parts. And this was done and read produced, and also some of the readers. One of them was John Houseman, who we talked about last week in the Robin Williams story, because John Houseman will later go on to run Juilliard, where Robin Williams was a student. John Houseman, I think, is the director of Mercury Theater at this point, and one of the producers of War of the Worlds. And oddly enough, I believe that, let me see if I get this right. John Houseman passed away October 31st, 1988. He dies on Halloween at the age of 86 from spinal cancer. John Houseman, The Paper Chase, Rollerball, The Fog, will later be the instructor for Robin Williams at Juilliard. But at this point in his life, he's running the Mercury Theater with Orson Welles, oddly enough. There's John Houseman. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's a weird one. Okay. So where was I here? Cool Hand Luke, November 1st, 1967 is released with Strother Martin and Paul Newman. And there's some eggs involved in this movie. And there's some problems. That was a great Paul Newman movie, one of the top Paul Newman movies. Okay, this is a weird one. A romantic comedy, The Tempest, is performed in England before James I at Whitehall Palace. And that is November 1st, 1611, Alana. For those scoring at home, 1611, November 1st, the romantic comedy, The Tempest, is performed. It'll later be performed by Patrick Stewart in 1995, I think, at the Broadhurst Theater for about 71 shows. But yeah, The Tempest, rom-com performed in front of King James I. Wow, 1611. That's how far back we're going in this series, Showbiz, this week in Showbiz History, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take a little break here, see if there's any super chats or anything. Let's see what. Oh, look at this. Oh, yeah, that's the Getty Images of the performance. Wow. Wow. I didn't know they had actual cartoons of it. Wow, that's great. Wow. Okay, getting back to the show. Let's see what we got. October 29th, 2019. Robert Evans is dead. The producer of The Godfather, Chinatown Love Story, died on October 26th of 2019. The head of Paramount at one time, a Hollywood legend, came from the pants business in New York. Him and his family, I think, made slacks. Rest in peace, Robert Evans. But here's a better one that, for me personally, a date to commemorate. October 26, 2021, an old friend, Mort Saul, passed away at the age of 94. A guy I talked to a number of times, interviewed, published interviews with, and one of the legends of stand-up political comedy. Became very close friends at the end of his life with Robin Williams, as we covered Ally McGraw's first husband. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Steve McQueen took Ally McGraw from Robert Evans. But getting back to Mort Saul, a real legend in so many ways. There's an episode I did on Mort Saul on my other channel. You may want to take a look at that. Mort Saul later became a very, very instrumental figure working with Jim Garrison, was deputized by Jim Garrison. Mort Saul had an ABC daytime show here locally in Los Angeles, where he dedicated the show every week to investigating the JFK assassination. He then went to New Orleans, gave up the show, and his career was ruined by Joseph Kennedy. Joseph Kennedy wanted to hire Mort Saul to be an in-house joke writer for JFK when he won the presidency. And Mort Saul had volunteered during the campaign to write jokes for JFK. And once JFK had won, Joseph Kennedy came to him to hire him to be a ghostwriter, a joke ghostwriter for JFK, and he refused. And he said, "Sir, I am now the loyal opposition," which is where that phrase comes from. Joseph Kennedy vowed to destroy Mort Saul's career and succeeded in many ways, getting him off television and destroying huge paydays. The FBI was on him, a huge FBI file. But Mort Saul, an American hero, and dedicated his life to find out who killed Joseph Kennedy's son. Probably more than Joseph Kennedy did. Did you make it through all 18? Of course I made it through all 18 innings, PD. What do you think? Are you kidding me? You know, I feel bad for the people who are at the game, because now you're stuck with a game where you can't come and you can't go. But that's the game to watch at home, the 18-inning game. Yeah, I've had no problems. I made nachos. I hunkered down. I lifted weights. I went on a jogging machine for a while. I worked on some other projects. It's fine. I don't care how long the game is. And the ending was great too. Okay. So getting back to the JFK thing, October 29, 2004, there was an impersonator of JFK named Vaughn Meader. Now, Vaughn Meader was known for one impersonation, and that was JFK. He was an impersonator. He died at the age of 68, pulmonary heart disease, 2004. But in 1963, after the passing of JFK, Vaughn Meader's career was over. And Lenny Bruce came on television. I think it was the Steve Allen show. And the first thing out of his mouth, Lenny Bruce, was Vaughn Meader, shoo. And people just cracked up laughing because they knew Vaughn Meader's career was over, because the one thing he was famous for was impersonating JFK. One of the great lines by Lenny Bruce of all time on television. Anyway, Vaughn Meader had albums out, people don't know. I'll show you some of them next week. But Vaughn Meader, different albums where he was doing JFK, made his whole career. There he is. Yeah, I think he was out of Boston. I think he was born in 1936. First Family record. Yeah. But there were others besides First Family. First Family sold quite a bit, and he made others. His career ended that day on November 22nd, 1963, because of the situation that happened in Dallas, Texas. 1995, October 30th, one of my favorites, Terry Southern, passed away. He had written Easy Rider, or co-written Easy Rider, co-wrote Dr. Strangelove, and I think he co-wrote Candy. I'd have to look that up. But Terry Southern, one of the great writers in American history in terms of film. October 30th, 1995. Sam Fuller, 1997, October 30th, one of the craziest directors of all time. Total alcoholic maniac. Did Shock Corridor, The Big Red One, and all these other B films. Legendary. Tarantino, huge fan of Sam Fuller. Absolutely crazy cigar chomping director. McDermott was great in Wonderland. Yeah. In Wonderland or Hollywoodland? There's Sam Fuller. Yeah. Wow. He was a maniac. He was a total maniac. October 30th, 2000. One of the legends of show business dies at the age of 78. Steve Allen was in a car crash, and I think lingered for a number of days and then passed away. 1954 to 1957. I think he was host of The Tonight Show before Jack Parr and before Johnny Carson. But an absolute comedy legend. He brought on Lenny Bruce. He brought on Jack Kerouac live on his shows on The Tonight Show. Completely different from current late night shows. But Steve Allen claims to have written 10,000 songs. I don't know about that. But he had a show with his wife, which is, I'm going to have to take a look. There's Steve Allen. He had a show with his wife, I think it was on PBS, where they invited famous characters of history to have dinner with them. And they staged this dinner with various famous people each week. I'm going to have to look this up. Genghis Khan, Albert Einstein, Attila the Hun, and they would sit around and eat dinner together. And as we were growing up, that we were riveted to this show. I'm gonna have to get a DVD copy of that. 1926 on Halloween. On Halloween, Harry Houdini, dead at the age of 52, born in 1874 from an appendix rupture, gangrene and peritonitis, a bunch of different problems. I don't know about the kid punching him in the stomach. It may be an urban myth, but Ratzo wrote the definitive book, Larry Sloman, on Houdini, if you want to get it, former editor of National Lampoon. Great book on Houdini. Died October 31st, 1926. Couldn't get out of that. Couldn't get out of that mess. Here he is, tied up with some chains and balls and everything else. Incredible muscular abilities to contract and expand his muscles to get in and out of stuff. Wow, is he good at this one thing? And hanging upside down and getting out of, keys that were in his mouth, under his tongue, all kinds of anal things that he did. I hate to mention anal, but I just did. October 31st, Halloween, again. There was a guy named River Phoenix who died not too far from here, in front of the Viper Room. And the Viper Room, right in front of you, Stand By Me, Little Nikita. It used to be called the Central for people who are from Hollywood who know it. The Viper Room does not exist before 1993. It was actually called the Central, which was another bar. But it became the Viper Room and became famous because of River Phoenix doing what he did on the sidewalk in front of the bar. It is a little tiny performance space for those who don't know. It's a tiny little club with a stage, and they showcase bands there. Even now, I mean, I've been there fairly recently. Sean Connery, at the age of 90, James Bond passes away on Halloween in 2020. I did not realize that. Shaken, not stirred. He was placed in a casket. And what a great life, of James Bond, Sean Connery, multiple movies besides Bond. Fantastic actor. Probably somewhat typecast because of Bond. But there he is, a former weightlifter, by the way. I think it was Mr. Universe or something, out of Scotland. I'd have to check on that. But Red October, fantastic, where he plays the father of Lena Hutchinson, the woman who was killed by Alec Baldwin. He actually plays her real father, who was the head of the Soviet submarine program, oddly enough. And Alec Baldwin's in the movie, as we discussed many times on the other channel. November 1st, 2006, the great diminutive actress Adrienne Shelley lost her life to a guy at the age of 40 in her own building, who's now doing 25 to life without parole. I don't know if you remember Adrienne Shelley. She was an indie darling in New York in the 2000s and the 1990s, especially in the 1990s. Happened today in 2006. Very sad story. Very, very sad. Someone in the building that did it, a maintenance man. There she is. I had a crush on her. Very, very sad story. Almost as sad was November 1st, 2015, Fred Thompson, the age of 73. Now, Fred Thompson was also in the line of fire, became a United States Senator from Tennessee, but a great actor. I don't know if any actors have become politicians other than Reagan. maybe there's others that I'm not thinking of, but Fred Thompson, there he is. Yeah, great actor and becomes a senator. It's interesting. Um, Passed away 2015, and I just remember him from In the Line of Fire. I don't. There's other films, obviously, he was in, and he worked all the time. He worked as a senator. Sonny Bono. I don't know if he was more of a song and dance man. You know what I mean? But a good try there. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Speaks on the Republican National Convention. Fred Grandy, Love Boat actor. Okay. Howard Baker, Chief of Staff. Howard Baker. Yeah. And Watergate. Yeah, he was there for Watergate. Fred Thompson wrote a book just about Watergate that I have back on my shelf. Yeah, very interesting. Escape Monkeys, if they're in your area. I don't know about the Escape Monkeys. Who's pitching tonight? Blake Snell goes tonight against Year Savage, whoever Year Savage is. Stunning in the current POTUS, if you want. That's stretching a point. Okay, the final one I have is Phil Silvers, Sergeant Bilko, 73 years old, dies on this day, November 1st, 1985, and people remember Sergeant Bilko. Sergeant Bilko, Phil Silvers, was in vaudeville. He was a huge star in vaudeville way before Sergeant Bilko. But maybe we'll do an episode on him someday because there's more to him than meets the eye. There he is. Wow, second season. It was a big show, Phil Silvers show. But he had a huge career before that. A lot of these guys end up on these shows after serving a lot of time in vaudeville or in comedy in general, and people only know them for that. But yeah, look at that. That's great. Yeah, he fantastic actor and a fantastic comic. Johnny Owen, The Viper Room, and River died. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or super chats or statements, now would be the appropriate time. Or you can keep your answers to yourself. Now would be a time for your statements or to like and subscribe. Thank you. Here's a place where you can like and subscribe. If you didn't do it before, you're out of the room. It really helps us beat the evil empire at their own game. And you can do it at your leisure, or you could do it right now. Let me see if we have. Yeah, we do have this tribal coffee, which I'm drinking right now, which I think you will really like. Here's the sound of it for my ASMR people at home who love ASMR. You got a secret code. Here it is. There's an actual photo. This is a brand new bag that I just received, and I think you'll like this. I've never met Don Rickles, but there are other comics out there that we will cover in the show. Thank you, Rondell. Yeah, if you want to try this coffee, I really recommend it. And I never switched from Folgers until now. I'm like a regular Rose Folgers guy, but this thing is gourmet, 100% gourmet coffee made by, like I said, made by pygmies. It says here in somewhere in the mountains of the Western Highlands province of Papua New Guinea, the home of the pygmies. I think baseball has finally come to Papua New Guinea, and they're putting together an all pygmy baseball team as I speak. I don't know if the coffee is going to sponsor the all pygmy baseball team down there, but they may be flying to Australia, which now has baseball as well in Australia. So keep an eye out for this all pygmy baseball team and their tribal coffee for their tribe. You may see it on their uniforms when you see them in the World Baseball Classic. Look for the logo that's over here on their hats of the pygmy team. It's going to be very tough to pitch to them because of their diminutive stature. There was a midget, I think was hired by Comiskey. Was it Comiskey? The White Sox who hired the midget, Eddie Goodell, to put some seats in the stands, put some butts in the seats, put some people in the stadium. Eddie Goodell, is that the name of the midget? Yeah, the White Sox, right? Yeah, same Comiskey as the 1919 Black Sox. I think he had one midget who walked because the strike zone was so small, which is why I'm backing this old pygmy team out of Papua New Guinea for the World Baseball Classic. The situation will develop. I'll give you some more reports. We're going to do, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to do John Belushi next week, and it's going to be a long show because even though he didn't live that long of a life, he did a lot of things in that life, and it covers stuff involving me, oddly enough, like that would ever happen on this show, at National Lampoon and other areas, which we'll get into during the show next week. So I hope you can make it to next week's show. If you enjoyed this show, please comment down below what your favorite baseball movie was. Yeah, there's Eddie. There it is. How do you pitch to Eddie Goodell? Like, where do you go? That's obviously high. Bring on the robot umpires because I can't take the umpires. Belushi, not Belushi. Go fuck yourself. I can't take the robot umpires. I can't take the umpires, the human umpires I'm watching now. The robot umpires I can't wait for. This guy, these umpires are so bad that they don't even the announcers don't want to criticize them because obviously the announcers are working on behalf of Fox and MLB. But it is hard to watch these umpires miss ball after strike after ball after strike after ball. So maybe the robot umpires or the challenge system, as they're calling it next year. That's great. That's great. 1-8. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. The next year's system will be the challenge system, where I think the pitcher, the batter, or the catcher can challenge a call by the home plate ump. And man, oh man, this is long overdue. There's Eddie Goodell with the rest of the boys. I don't know how many games he played. It might have been the only game because it's obviously a stunt. I don't think he played more than one game, but I could be wrong. He's now going to manage the pygmy team out of Papua New Guinea. He's a little older now, and they're bringing him back like Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own. So look for that coming next year in the World Baseball Classic. I got to get ready for the game. I got to put on my uniform. I got to loosen up. I got to get my glove. I got to move around some of these props back here towards the TV and lock into this game tonight with Blake Snell. And I hope it's the other Blake Snell, not the one we saw up in Toronto. So I hope you had a good time watching this. Beanie from Grumpy Bear Beanies. I'm not sure what that means, but go blue.